I want to run the ball, but there's no holes. They're swallowing y'all up. We got to figure something else out. And that is when I'm like, okay. Because at that point, whatever you're doing offensively, it doesn't matter who's out there because the sack. I talked to my colleague, shout out to David Harrison, about how what the fastest sack was. Okay, the fastest sack that they did was 4 seconds. It's not that fast. It ain't that slow, but it's not that fast, which means there's some time. There is some time. But why wasn't anything corrected? Why is this something that, again, I'm going to go back to why is it stuff that we saw week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Why are we still watching this week 7? It's because something is not resonating and something isn't necessarily being done in order to correct that particular problem. So let's go to some of the comments in the chat, and then we're going to go to Sam Howell's press conference. And I've seen this. I saw this other comment too. I believe it was from Marius and Eric Parrish. Ron is the trap. He's out of date with what's going on. That goes back to the comment I was sharing with you all around this generation and what resonates and what works. In the my way or the highway, if you do what I tell you, you'll be successful. Now, let's be clear. There are some execution challenges. There are some execution challenges. I'm not going to act like it's said. Sometimes there's some things happening. You know, there's some catches I believe that should be made. There's some tackles that I believe that should be made. There's some blocks that I believe that have been missed that have to be addressed. But on the other flip side of that coin, is the message could be fine. Messenger could be fine. It's how the message is moving across. And when you're still having the same issue over time like this, and it's even getting worse, that's how you know something isn't clicking. I see this comment from D'Angelo Pope. Oh, they need to switch it up. Hey, listen. The offensive line was something that has been a conversation, and we all knew that because they were new and dealing in this and working together that this was going to happen. Now, the conversation around Andrew Wiley, very nice man, but the conversation around Andrew Wiley, I spoke about him in a long form on this show after the preseason game after the Cleveland Browns, because he got beat, and that's how that safety happened. And I continuously said, defensive linemen are going to see that film. That one alone, they're going to use that move every time, and they're going to beat them every single solitary time because it worked. And we've literally seen that happen week after week. Now, it doesn't always result in a safety because that's not where you're on the field, but it's literally the exact same moves. So yes, Nick Gates, love him. He's a goon, let me tell you. But he had a time on yesterday. He really had a hard way to go in that game against the Giants. It wasn't pretty. It was not pretty at all. I see here the comment about Sam having the same issue at UNC. We're getting ready to jump to Sam Howell's press conference, after game press conference. You all stick with me. If you're just tuning in, you're watching from the Culture from the Couch series, the Washington Commanders Update, and I'm your host, CWall. Thank you so much for hanging out for the live discussion. Bowie Television, every single day this show comes on. Verizon Channel 11, Comcast Xfinity Channel 77 from 1:30 to 2:30, and on the weekends during the noon hour. And oh, by the way, while you're here, make sure you subscribe to Bowie TV on YouTube. It's Bowie TV at BCMC TV Maryland, or BCMC Maryland TV. Either one, you will find it. I promise you. Now, as we're going through Sam Howell's press conference, write in the chat, what do you think about his comments? Check it out.
Hey, Sam, what do you think was going on there in the first half with the kind of look? Was it the looks they're giving you? What do you think was going on? Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of things that were going on. They obviously they gave us some looks, but they weren't any looks that we don't know the answers to. It was just more of a matter of just executing. We didn't do a good job executing the first half, and got to some adjustments there towards the end of the first half and into the second half, and we're able to do some good things. But just got to come out of the gate better, and start faster and just execute better in the first half. That we felt like it was another game we felt like we should have won, and we felt like we were the better team, but we didn't play that way today.
You feel like maybe you're given a better shot in the second half with some more of those fades, the go balls and down the sides, attacking the coverage a little bit more? Did that give you a better shot to get something done?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the second half we got to some more kind of max protection type stuff and kind of just kind of put it in the hands of our receivers. And those guys did a good job of getting down the field vertically and beating those guys and winning their one-on-one matchups. I was just trying to do my best to get the ball in their hands. So they definitely all stepped up, and made some big plays. That last play, I got to make it easier on Jahan. Probably a lot of people are going to say he should have caught it, but I got to give him a better ball, and he was wide open. I got to give him a better throw.
Every offense is going to play better without pressure, but it seems like pressure seems to be affecting you guys a little bit more. Why is that, and how can you guys address that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just I think everyone kind of has a hand in it. I think a lot of the sacks this year, I think I could have done a better job kind of get rid of the ball, and then there is at times where we just kind of get beat up front. So I think we can all do a better job of just focusing on what our job is and what our responsibility is on each and every play, and just taking it one play at a time. But at the end of the day, our plan is good. We have good plays, and we just got to execute.
How do you feel like the protection communications were today, sliding, things like that? How do you feel like those went?
Yeah, it was good. We made some adjustments throughout the game. So, usually kind of going into it, versus what looks, kind of what we're going to get to. We made some adjustments throughout the game and kind of slid different ways. But I thought the guys did a good job. There wasn't many miscommunications or anything like that.
How different was their pressure from what you were expecting coming in?
Yeah, not much different. I think for the most part, we had them picked up. It was just a matter we just got to do a better job winning our one-on-one battles. I got to do a better job getting the ball out of my hands. But yeah, I mean, it's tough. They have good guys up front, and the way their front is structured, they demanded a lot of one-on-one, reps with our guys, and it makes it tough, especially in passing situations when those guys know they can just tee off. But at the end of the day, we just got to do a better job kind of avoiding those situations, and then when we are in those situations, we just got to execute.
Terry had a couple really tough catches, including the one where, you get the extra 15 yards for unnecessary roughness. How nice has that been to have that available to you in those crunch times?
Yeah, I mean, having Terry's awesome. I got to do a better job just relying on him when times are tough and just giving him an opportunity. They were coming down and pressing a lot. We probably saw the most press today that we've seen all year. And Terry does a great job beating press coverage and obviously getting down the field vertically. So every time I kind of saw that opportunity, I was just trying to give him a chance, and he did a great job.
Were you surprised you guys didn't go with the max protect and the rollouts a little earlier after all the early pressures?
No, I mean, I think the hard thing is, you work all week long on a game plan, and you work on the opening script, and you work on all these plays that you think are good against their defense. And at the end of the day, the play calls were fine, and what we were doing was fine. We just weren't executing. So it's kind of hard to just say, after the first few drives, to just say, just screw it, we're throwing our whole game plan away, we're going to do something else. I thought our plan was fine. We just got to do a better job executing.
We've seen them practice things, and we've seen how it can happen in fruition. And it doesn't. And I want to say this. I see this comment from Lamar. It might be the run calls themselves, but it seems like the others run 1 yard into a cloud of dust. Maybe we need more power runs. On Sunday, that wasn't going to work. Not from what we could see. It's just one of the offensive line isn't good. They're not good, and that's just the fact. And unless there has to be more preparation for their one-on-one matchup so that they understand what tactics are being used by those defensive linemen and the defenses overall so that they can be more effectively prepared, because the reality is they're going to lose their one-on-one matchups most of the time. So they have to understand their opponent. It's like when you go into any competition, if you're doing it, you got to understand your person. Who's your person? Who's your people? What are they good at? Where are the areas of improvement? What's going to get them? And that level of preparation isn't being done because it's too much relying on that in that regard than beating their one-on-one matchups. And they're just not going to do that most of the time. So it's going to have to be a bit more scheming in who on my team is the best person to go up against that person. If that means you shake things up on your starting lineups a bit, it is what it is. But you can't just keep doing it just to say that you did it unless you know and understand that the best person for the job you need to put in there based on the other person on the scrimmage line. Who's the best person for the job? Who's the best person who can make that work? Because if you won't line up against the same people all the time, especially on this past Sunday, I'm like, well, my God, they've already showed you that, and they were ready for the run game. They're ready for that. So then when you try to throw the football, everybody's not catching it, which they normally do. So it's like, what? And then in other cases, Sammy is holding the football for too long. So what adjustments need to be made? And Sam said it. He said it. We're not going to just throw our whole game plan out the window because it's not working. Well, maybe you need to consider that. Maybe you need to consider shaking some things up or be prepared for the shakeup. If you know the personnel on the other side of the scrimmage line. That's what I'm saying. I feel like there's an extra level of preparedness that's not transpiring so that they know exactly who they're playing. You all have heard me come on this show many times and be like, well, they didn't know. And so yesterday I said, oh, they forgot. It was so much emphasis on the offense that they forgot the Giants had a good defense. How you forget that? Because why? Everybody's looking at the records. Then they're not tying in the emotional aspect of this. Hey, don't nobody want to lose their job? Nobody. No one. So they're going to come in at home, and it's a division rival, and they're going to try their best to beat you. And they only had to score 14 points to do it. And that is disturbing. That's disturbing. Because this offense, they can get you at least 20. Seriously. I really, and hey, when Andrew Wiley lost it and got that personal foul, I said, ooh, they are getting tossed out there. They're getting beat out there. And they absolutely know it. And now the frustration is setting in. Because Andrew Wiley is very cool, calm, and collected. You know, he's going to play football, but he doesn't get mad like that. He doesn't just say, screw it, and say, he was mad. He was upset. They were getting beat. I don't know what the TV, I watched some of the TV version, but they were getting the crap beat out of them. For real, on that offensive line. They were. And so they knew it too. Once Andrew Wiley lost it, I said, well, there goes the neighborhood because, Sam Cosmi normally does lose it a little bit. Nick Gates, Andrew Wiley does not. I said, he's getting the brakes beat off of him and he's upset. And so what do you do then other than say, well, hey, but you do have to change the plays up. One thing I'll say, going back to Chris Rodriguez, one thing Chris seems to do it's like Chris waits out the play. He gets the football and he waits to scan the environment. After everybody has tossed each other around, then he typically takes off a little bit. So that's one thing. He doesn't just go. He waits a little, then he goes, which could be helpful, which could be extremely helpful. But he's a power runner, and you love to see more of him. But hey, let's all be for real. I want to go back to something. Jahan Dotson isn't having a good season. We're in week 7. Week 7. I projected that Jahan would have an amazing year. Jahan Dotson is not having a good season. This is where you start to say, okay, is the pace too much? Is the speed too much? Is the different coaching technique from what he's experienced previously with the previous offensive coordinator, what is resonating, what is not? It's a tough year for him. It's a tough year. And it goes back to what conversations are being had, what's helping him to get through this tough period. After the game yesterday, I'm not certain what the TV version showed, the CBS version, I'm not sure what everybody saw. He was upset after the game. He stayed on the sideline for a while. And I get what Sam Howell said about that football being thrown. It was other people too that said Sam threw a bad football. He threw a bad football. You put Jahan in a danger zone. And I'm like, Jahan should have caught that. And what happens if you're paying attention, he's been given Jahan. There was sometimes in preseason where it was like repeat and go, where you saw there was going to be heavy amounts of throws and targets to Jahan Dotson. And the reality is, when he has his moments, it's not coming to fruition. That goes back to execute. It's not coming to fruition. And that is a player that I'm like, okay, what's going on? I see this question here. Is any of the top picks achieving their potential? Jahan Dotson had an amazing year last year. Different offensive coordinator, game day. Again, catches. He normally catches these. We saw him catch them last year. We see him catch them in practice. It's not coming to fruition on game day. What's transpiring here? Don't know. We know that Emmanuel Forbes, a lot was placed on Emmanuel Forbes. I told you all that back during the summer. I said, well, I don't know if I'm telling some competitive advantage information here, but they got Emmanuel Forbes tracking Terry in practice. He's tracking Terry, he's tracking Logan Thomas, he's tracking Jahan, which means they putting him on wide receiver 1. And I don't know how that's going to go down by the time we get to Philadelphia. Literally what I said back during the summer. By the time we get to Philadelphia, that experiment might start looking a little shaky because these are very physical wide receivers. So that's what happened. He was back in the game yesterday. It was all right. It was fine. Nothing glaring, but nothing bright starshine worthy. But it goes back to now with that on the defensive side, and this is in response to the question. That's when I look at Jack Del Rio and easily say, are you using your personnel to their strengths? I can tell you right now, the answer is no. No. So, and are you scheming up something that is better based on your person? Again, it goes back to how well do you know? In leadership classes, we call it, I'm gonna go back to this, and then we do have to cut out because we could talk about this forever. Seriously, can you tell? And also because I'm not having a show on Thursday, so I'm giving you all some more time. So thank you for sticking it out with me. We do something called stakeholder profiles. In stakeholder profiling, in this case, you would have a profile of every single person on the team. You know the unit, you know the player, you know what they're good at. Hey, if you would like to even know what they like to eat for dinner, you can know that too. But it's really about the game day situation. Now, I'm not saying you wouldn't use some of this stuff for trash talking purposes as well. Like, hey, if you know something about somebody, you can make a joke or you can say something, call them, say whatever, get into all of that. To just really get into somebody's skin, to throw them off. You can try that too. I'm not saying you should, but I'm saying that you can. right? Use it for that purpose. But it really is to understand the personnel. And what I am seeing week after week is that they are underestimating the personnel on the other side of the team. They're looking at records and they are adjusting based on their game planning based on those records. Do not game plan based on the records. You need to game plan based on what they're scheming, who their individuals are, who these folks are, who they've played, because the caliber of team counts too. The caliber of team counts as well. So we're going to go back to the Giants defensive line and the Commanders offensive line. The Giants have played better teams than the Washington Commanders. So they have faced better offensive lines. So maybe them being so good wasn't really noted or talked about, again, because it was overshadowed by all the conversation around the offense injuries. But please, those other offensive lines are very good that they went up against, right? Against the Commanders, it was going to be a very tough day for the Commanders. But I'm not seeing the game planning and preparation done in a way where they really understand and respect the level of competition on the other side of the field. That's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm sensing. When I'm seeing and sensing the players not executing things and on game day that I've watched them execute and practice, what I'm not seeing and what I'm not sensing is what then is the corrective action from a leadership perspective to say, we are better than this. We know how to do this. Run the play again. Get it right this time. Do it again. Do it again. Get it right this time. Because when it's a matter of you just didn't catch the football, then that's the issue. If it's an issue of you just missed that tackle, on the offensive side, you missed that block, but at least it all has to happen hand in hand. So there's enough blame to go around. But we're going to go back to what they had those signs on the Metro. They say, when you see something, say something. So when you see they're not doing something that you know they can do, you know that they're better at, help them get their act together. Because you know they're better than that. They know they're better than that. If you all must know, no, there wasn't a happy person in that locker room. I did talk to Terry after the locker room, and we had a pleasant conversation, but nobody was happy. There was nothing to be happy about. Jonathan Allen's frustration, it was real. It tired. But what can you do? You could also say, hey, listen, I'm letting the dogs out. Go and watch this film, and let's watch this film together. And Brian Mitchell shared this with me when he and I were talking. Again, I'm in my little therapy session with he and Santana. You watch film, you can watch the film, then you as an individual player, you need to watch you. This goes back to preparation. How long are you spending in the film room? Watching your teammates, watching yourself, and how long are you spending in that film room watching your opponent? I'm simply seeing people who aren't prepared for the other person. Did you know who the people were that play over there? Not the ones you went to school with. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the people you have to beat in order for the play to be executed. And who then ensures that you do know them? To me, that's where the leadership comes into place. That's where it happens. That's where it comes into place. Is Saquon Barkley still going to do Saquon Barkley things? Darren Waller still going to do Darren Waller things. On the defensive side, Dexter Lawrence still going to do, Dexter Lawrence things. A lot of people act like they didn't know Deonte Banks. You all know I know Deonte Banks. He went to Maryland. They going to still do things. Do you know who they are? Are you paying attention? You should be. I don't know where this season goes. I don't. I have no idea where this season is going to go. I wish I could tell you. I don't know. That's all I said. I said I don't know 137 times yesterday. And then at one point in time, my colleague Donna Hopkins and Lake Lewis, they were like, look at Candi. She's very upset. I said, yes. When I get quiet and I just fold my hands or either fold my arms and sit back in my chair, I'm upset. And I'm upset because this is not what they practiced. And I'm really trying to figure out what is happening from practice day to game day. Because they don't practice. Anytime you hear me say, well, they look better in practice than they did on game day, that's an issue. Because on game day, you should up the ante for sure if you look that good in practice, which they did. They do. All summer long. For real. And I'm seriously, if I told you it's not going to be good, I'll tell you it's not going to be good. But what's the conversation? Because we'll get them next week. We'll get them next time. That's not the conversation that needs to be had. We've seen glimpses of what this team could be like. We've seen what they can be like offensively in the Philadelphia Eagles game. We've seen that. They didn't come up with the W, but they had the Eagles on the ropes. We just all say that. Now, we've seen who they could be defensively in certain spurts. Overall, I'm going to continue to say this until I see it differently. The only game where I saw the Commanders look like how they do in practice is the second half of the Denver Broncos game. Remember when they came out and they played, I said, I recognize these people. And I didn't mind telling some people in the locker room after the game, and I didn't know who y'all were on Sundays. I almost stopped speaking to y'all because I thought you were different people. This game, I recognized everybody. Very good. But the rest of these games, now the Eagles game, yeah. Bills, nope. Bears, nope. Atlanta Falcons, I'm going to tell you, no. I didn't recognize that. They ended up winning because the Falcons offense wasn't executing. That's how that went down. But I still was like, they better than this. I'm glad they got the W, but no. We'll have to see what happens. You got to want it. And I'm going to put this up here is the last comment. You know, they're just not hungry enough in their hearts. You really got to want it. You really got to want it. And you got to be prepared. You know, they got to want it and they got to be able to execute it. They got to be able to say, somebody need to be able to say, Coach, give me the football. I know I dropped it. I know I dropped it. Give me another chance. Let's hit it. Let's go. You right. I got you. So we'll have to see. I think it's a communication challenge going on though. I can't prove it, but I'll be doing my salute thing so that I can very soon. You all listen. Thank you so much for hanging out. We did this for an hour and some change, talking about the Washington Commanders and the New York Giants. Up next for the Commanders is the Philadelphia Eagles at FedEx Field, another sold-out crowd. Here's to hoping that there's more Commanders fans than Eagles fans, but you never know, especially after that loss to the Giants. A reminder that I am not doing a live this Thursday. You all wish me safe travels as you always do. I'm going to go enjoy my homecoming at Hampton University. So I'm off. But you all, thank you so much for hanging out. Again, from the Coaching from the Couch series, you have been tuned in to the live discussion on the Washington Commanders update. I am your host, CWall. You can find this each and every single day, 1:30 to 2:30 on Bowie Television, Verizon Channel 11, Comcast Xfinity Channel 77. And on the weekends, it's during the noon hour. I appreciate you all hanging out with me for the whole entire hour and some change. I will be talking to you all again next week.